First, we shall set our mind in the noble and immaculate disposition of bodhicitta, thinking that we are going to study and practice Dharma in order to help establish all sentient beings in the limitless expanse of space. We're going to bring all of those beings to utterly pure, totally perfect, and most precious enlightenment. And this morning, in our efforts to help all other beings, we are studying the Mahamudra text called Pointing Out the Dharmakaya. In our study of this text, then we went very quickly to the section on the actual practice. And in the actual practice, then we have two main sections, one on shamatha, one on vipassana. We started on the shamatha section, and we saw that it deals with how to set the body and how to set the mind. And we looked briefly at how to set the body.
Maroso tatala kadina do jishon to mandam tendisendua dikazina mugu ganjingo sondua ganje di tele ta ngonda ta tsuchiwa de indi tele na dan dan bine debi to bayan so de tele na depa mena moto bare de indi la na zo dombo ne mugu ga na cheni de ni ganya bu si si se ge de la dombo la mala so ande nani na ka gam ta de se ge ne
so. When we are doing the practice of shamatha, or if it's later on when it's the vipassana, the insight, whichever meditation practice we do, then always we start with a similar visualization. And this is to think that either in space in front of oneself or above one's head, there is one's own root guru, one's own guru, usually in the form of Buddhavajradhara. And one prays to the presence of that guru. One prays from the heart, thinking of the guru as the combination of all the refuges, as one's only refuge, as the one who has all the power and presence to bestow help. One thinks of the great kindness of the guru. One thinks in faith and with appreciation for the guru. And this is, so the guru becomes all of the refuges. It's a way of taking refuges, receiving blessing and so on at the beginning of the practice. It's very important. And for instance, at the beginning of our session today, we did the short prayer to Vajradhara. And in that prayer, it says that devotion is said to be the head of meditation, the head which is the most vital part of the body. Then for our meditation, devotion is the head, it's the most vital part, and this is why we start every practice with this deep connection, profound connection with the Guru.
Tini mugu she ngogayong ta lam sonde mongbo yo nanda nyuni yo nanda ta ngonda wo ji gu yongda wo lan ta be nyan da wo she sonde she tini cha mongbo yin nanda ta gong the nam tini sonde she ta tadi she gundu.
So there are many ways of starting off the practice. There can be lots of prayers, there can be few prayers, one can do some purifying mantras, pray to the Guru, but it is important to start the prayers with this aspect of blessing and connection.
Tani rana no ongilam mi payoa mondo na no ta karani na mondo ande ke dena masu tuso mundu te yambare nona ongilam le ta deta ma ta na yong ma hi na yong lama ta sonde she chadi telana wo de he de ronya lama tham ronya do yeme ji den ri song zhe ta den ri she ge da yong ta nona na lama do rong san ni yeme ji den ri chadi de shala kha so ma tin thon ro bara de du telana do go yong du dun da wo she ge na ta den ri ji ge yong din du.
At the end of that session of prayers, then if you're familiar with the foundation practices, they weren't explained in this particular course, but if you're familiar with them and if one's done them as a forerunner to doing the actual practice of meditation in this series of practices, then at the end of the prayers you receive the 4 empowerments from the Guru as you do in the Guru Yoga practice. If you don't know how to receive the 4 empowerments, you've not come to that point of the foundations yet, then simply having prayed to the Guru, then the Guru, you imagine that the Guru dissolves totally into you, the Guru melts into light and dissolves into you, and your mind and the Guru's mind become indivisible.
Tini lama la depa she ta sonde she ge ji jin san rao zo de ga re la na lama la ya bu jin tong yi ji che par jian ji yo na di su mi ju de ra la yi ji che par jian ji le wa re lama la ya bu man tong lama du jiao rao jin tong na di la ji ge chu de zha yong du jiao rao ji ko zi ma re ya ko ya bu yo ma re ya zhe wa re de ri na di su mi chu de zha la yong yi ji me ba chang wa re.
And what is the reason that we do this? Why do we pray to the Guru? Why do we try to develop faith and devotion to the Guru? Well, one of the main reasons we do that is that through this sincere and pure way of seeing the Guru, then we have trust and confidence in the practice that we do, which is given to us, assigned to us by the Guru. If we have a lousy view of the Guru, confused view, a view full of doubts, then this transfers onto the practice we're doing, and it will injure the practice.
Tini tela na yichi chebar chen yapu ji yo ona ngarong go uni lolan yapu ji ta wa re. Ni lolan yapu ji tu na tani rong la phamba be nyu ma re. Te yichi me ona lolan shi ro tu ma de lolan ma tu na tani ngarong la yo phamba shi ro yo ba ma re. Te ina na ta de ba hong ge ji dong yichi za ban ro ta deng le wa re ji.
If we have confidence in the practice and we trust it totally, then we'll do it well. By doing the practice well, then we get the results. This is beneficial for us, it's beneficial for others. If we don't have confidence in the practice, then we won't do it so well, and it won't bring its rewards. This is one of the main reasons why we need to do the prayers.
Tini ta lama ganje de tong wonda wo ji khe re gen ri re jina de yong ji men du tong ka ba la mo mo ka la gong de gen du de ma tong de ngo de la na ta lama la song de ji xie tini gong ja de na ji men du de yin na ri mi xie ka sa la na gong ji ka sa la ka la lama la song de xie yong gong ji yong lama song de xie de di xie ri mi xie gen du.
That's right. And in fact, what's best to do is not just to do the prayers to the gurus or to the guru as a formality at the beginning of the practice and then just get on and meditate, but to come back to it again and again. Do some prayers of devotion, meditate for a while, do the prayers of devotion again, meditate for a while, more prayers of devotion. Then, like this, that's much better. This is the way the great masters of the past did it.
Pena ngaro so gamje de la gang ya po da yo na zo gang da wo ji si. Teni yo gang ya po me no tong tho nda man da du chwa tan ta no to ka yin na tan ta ti ka si na shi tu la ma gam de la yong song de xie. Teni yo de zo ji no to da pa xia wo de teni yo gang je ta ti xie na pen tong du yong nyan da ku ta xian de zo ji man ta se ra won ro na yong la ma shi tu la gam de la song de xie. Of
course, if the meditation is going well, as it ought to be, we'll see that later. It doesn't mean if it's pleasant. If it's going well, how it ought to be going, then one just stays with the practice. But if there is distraction and the mind isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, then one can stop the formal practice, do devotional prayers and for a while, and then go back to the practice, refreshed, inspired, and do some more practice. And then if after some time, then again the practice is being lost, the mind's not doing what it ought to be doing, then again one can pray to the Guru. This is a very, very beneficial way to practice. We can see this in, if we look at the life or the songs of Milarepa, we see how almost everything he does, he starts by remembering and paying very heartfelt homage to his own Guru. This turning the mind to the Guru at the beginning of everything as the way to enter into anything is sort of the hallmark of what he did, is what brought him all of the fruition to the practice that he had.
Tani ta ngi ni gong du ta ni de xi xia de ta nyang mo ba de tang ji de zo ji ma chung xin zhe wo ji ni ga le de zo ji pen xin zhe wo ji xi xia ge de ni de xi ro mo de ba la yong gong ji wo ba le mo ba la gong ji wo ba le de na ni ji bo ge song jin ro wa de wo de li wo ba ma le de na na do na na ni gong ba la pian du yo le ji na pian du yo le ni ga la pian du yo le.
Now, if we turn our attention to shamatha practice itself, this pacifying the mind, then using some sort of focus, these various techniques for pacifying the mind, is a very widespread and general thing. It's not just a Buddhist thing. It's something that has been found to reduce the mind's negativity and to bring peace by many, whatever we can say, many people, many faiths. In itself, it's not a way to enlightenment. It's a way to reduce the power of the defilements. It's a way to bring some peace, but that's all.
Pena ngarozo senjibo mocho senjibo meona malala gata karise hyurelana chungtuanda odong tamana bonda ten da tin chen dua da karise hyure de de chen na ni ka le de zu ji bonda wo cho de bonda wo ji di sen me ji ba de pa de ba ngo nian xie pa me ban de wo ni ka cho lu dua pe de de wo yin di de la nyong mo ba ndo na ndo sho ji du tu mi la so bi nyong mo ba ro pa tam ji ni ka la pa ngo nyong ba de wo ji na mi me ban de wo ji yin ni de ge cho de hyo ba re.
So in worldly situations, when the mind, when we're very upset or disturbed, then people have a drink, alcoholic drink that is, or they smoke a joint, and they feel better for it. They feel calm and smooth and a lot better than they were when their mind was troubled. It's a temporary solution, but it's only a temporary solution. It doesn't eradicate the problem. So in this way, simple concentration meditation, simple focusing of the mind is effective temporarily in reducing anger, passion, the defilements in the mind. But it's only a temporary solution, and it suppresses them for a while.
다 도저히 말아 가로도 지 타만나 본다고도 지 총다고 지 힘이 더던다지 말이야. 전에 길 말이지. 기차시나 때던다 말이. 가르레라나는 힘이 이거 송지 송거래 세기다. 뭐지 당하요 봐 말이. 힘이 고롱. 힘이라 다 편도요 말이네. 편도 전부 주어래 마도. 힘이 고롱 송지 되요 봐 말이. Pena lundi ti dola ta ngaro se kini gam tin di sesuna no to ro pa thong je pha ko ni ta tin di se ro di tera no tini dunga thong je la tsin da la phen to yo ba re yin de yo na yo ta se si wa ji ma la phen to yo ki yo ba ma re o nyo mo ba ka re dina mil thong ba re no na ni ka ji tsin de zong ji la no tini phen to chen mo ro yo re pena no 가르라나는 총투나용 다 네가라 배도 전부라고 이거래 다만 나보된 네가라 다 디둥하다 반정제 배도 전부라고 그래 근데 얘나요 그런 거디 총다 디라로바드 파메 계속 가긴 로차지 니마 가긴 로차나 뭐 배도 뭐 말해 다만 나보용 던다 그래 된다고 진디디라는 시와 지만데 지마라 희니가 배도 전부면데 전더냐라 배도 마도 되니 더 가리렌도리라나는 녀mom바 짜와다 랑동을 지거 말이 짜와 메지도 랑동래 랑동라 희니 야부 요거나 랑동로 편도 지고 말이 더 나로서 희니 강구이 이제 조 등이 해고 말이 디마오 희니 거나가 송진로 희니 거나가 배지부 쳐로 말이 대나미기디 니가는 지부 쳐리 때도 편도 마도 대일은 다들 편도 요바 말이.
So we're taking the examples of drinking alcohol or smoking hash to make the point. Of course, they're not on the same level. We're not just saying that shamatha meditation is the same thing as those, but it's to make the point that it's only a temporary solution for the way that the mind is. From that point of view, they're similar. There's a difference in as much as the Buddha actually taught shamatha meditation. He used it as a tool. It's not the essential part of his teaching, but he did teach its use, whereas he didn't for those other substances. So, I mean, there's a big difference there already. But in as much as when people whose minds are not happy, then they take a drink or they smoke a joint, and then that lasts for a few hours or a day or two, but then it's not really solved the problem and the effects wear off. If we look at shamatha meditation, even if we do a lot of it, in this life we might become a more peaceful person, and the defilements may be less effective, But if we look over a period of lives, it's not taking away the problem. It isn't. Those things will come back because they've not been taken out by the root. They've been smoothed over. They've been temporarily removed and reduced. So there the analogy is similar for alcohol or for drugs. But this having been said, so that we've now got the point that shamatha is not what the Buddha's teaching is essentially about. Now we've got that point, then we can say that shamatha has many wonderful qualities. It has many wonderful qualities because of all of the benefits it does bring for the mind. There are many temporary benefits, and we shouldn't underestimate those temporary benefits. They are very important. But the main benefit is this. Shamatha becomes the basis for vipassana. The calm, stable mind becomes the basis for insight, and that deep insight is what takes away those problems forever. That deep insight is what the Buddha's teaching is really about. And we cannot get that insight without the basis of a calm, peaceful, stable mind. So this is the greatest benefit of shamatha.
Pena ngaronso nomba sonji pala tabato pala sonji shonje semba nyantu dajamba ta sandawoji tuduga na yobara tabato sonji ta dinoni ma hyundawodo mi chunhyundawodo nyantu dajamba yoga bare 대용 기니 레몬도가 가르레 되어가지고 공사가 도움이 또 요바라고 공사가 도움이 돈이 그다바라 랑통가 차기리 되면 기니 레몬도 타바 토징가 돈이 그다와 또도 로그 기고 바래 대인도 되라는 기니 기버 알아서 송지면도 대나 기니 건바 코나랑 공고 되면도 대인도 되라는 랑통배 가지도.
If we consider the various results, fruitions of Buddhist practice, that there are many, but if we sum them up, you have the ultimate result is Buddhahood, or then to become a realized bodhisattva, or to become an arhat. There are different sorts of arhat. Even if we take the, the simplest level of arhat, which is a shravaka arhat, as a true liberation, not just a fruition, a fruition as liberation, true liberation, then the Shravaka Arhat is not achieved by shamatha alone. It could never be achieved by shamatha alone. The shamatha acts as a basis for the wisdom, the insight. That insight, in the case of the Shravaka Arhat, is insight into the non-existence of self, which is one aspect of shunyata, of voidness. So it's simply by shamatha alone one cannot become an arhat. That shamatha needs to be then the basis for insight.
Tendindula tatata gachi chiborendu shishaga chugata rotondawo gari jindi yintata be gachi borendu lopata yon ta songyin indela yobi ani Taba Maja Teta Kugu Gola Dezoji Hiji Bekachi Warendu, Carrere Lanana, Tan Shunghani, Bog Numbi, Takuzu Chekundaoji, Sonny the Chodio Pare, Dinoni, Tai Hungamarando, Dela Yopare, Di Hamagona, Be Motsabo Dauji, Chodio Pare, Numbi Chunro Tomahi, Nomakari Kari Magona, Pena. 대도 야보면도 배고 잡으라고도 대인나는 아니난다 잡아이난다 맞아이난다 너나는 소인이 전든도 니버티지 추고를 대도 로종 세제동 진짜 야보지 희제도 배 같이 보가로 그랬는데 자도
알았어. Rinpoche is emphasizing this point to us because he says Samadhi is such an important Dharma center in the West. It was the very first Tibetan Dharma center. It's still one of the major Dharma centers. And it's very important that in our community here, which is this community of monks, nuns, lay people, among which, all levels of which there are experienced practices, then it would be shameful if we didn't know the answers to certain questions. We ought to know certain key points. We really did. And so this understanding that shamatha itself cannot lead to liberation, and just where it sits in the scheme of things is something we ought to know, and this is why he's stressing this point.
Tani the katwa den ranada chadena ro ta mundapi cheshu mundapa ndindizo mundapa jinsan dawoji hakogundu tima hamagona katwa ga yaboze hyore marozo nombi sonji kacheta ba sonji pe yabuyin la hyore kajewa tanje go ala pe yabuyin la hyore tani yiki tanje yiki magika pe yabuyin la hyore sonji dawoyin la ri mi to to te son mundapa ma to tondo pe yabuyin katwa la hyore tani yana yung mundapi jinsan sonji ina sonji tse sonji se jin niriji yora yaboji hago gudi ima magina rongsa sonji yabo yore zidina jinsan je mundiwa ta lumbu panju sunsa rendi dima hira gawa panju sunsa re mundiwa dindi ina dindi ga jinsan tatra yaboji kechazo hago ndi bina hini gangi jinsan hini le pentu kare yo nipa kare yo 랑동이나 가리르 거니 편도 요 누바가리 요 되니 되나는 시로발라용 기니 강지요리 라 강지요리 뭐고요리 데 문다비 진짜지 해줘거든 진짜지 하고거든 되면 흔들라 라 강지요리 송화가 라 몽자다 파다산 농바도 잡아잡아 가로서 접하다고 요리 근데 얘나요 디 진짜 문다비 체주 하고거든 되니 신혼이 되니 하마고지 좋아는데 근데 이나나 가로서 야보면도 맞는데 근데 또 제로서 희지 빼가치는데 가르래 되나나 무슨이 보고 농주가 주소 체크라고 쳐대요래 근데 메시드만 희바이나 되고 잡은다고 요선도야 근데 이나 로종야 보세요 그 산도 맞는데
because we are Buddhists, because we're in this Dharma center, which is a main Dharma center, then we ought to know what we're doing and why we're doing it and the reasons behind it, and not simply just to do it. Because all over the world there are Muslims who believe in Allah, there are Christians who believe in God, there are Buddhists who believe in Buddha, and usually it's cultural. They grew up in a society. It's because of where they were born. So that the Muslims think, Allah's great, is the very best, and Christians think God or Jesus is the very, very best. We're Buddhists, we think Buddha's great. But just to sort of think that, or to inherit it from your parents or from your country, doesn't really explain why Buddha's great, or why God is great, or why Allah is great. Then it's just a belief, and we need to know why. What did the Buddha achieve? What is Buddhahood? What is it we're aiming for through our Buddhist practice? If we're doing shamatha meditation, what do you do? Why are you doing it? What are the results that can come out of it or that can't come out of it? These very basic things of Buddhism. The Buddha achieved liberation. What is liberation? Can shamatha achieve liberation or can't it? These sort of very primal things of our faith we really ought to know, because otherwise, if it's vague, then we find things like shamatha, concentration practices all over the world in different faiths. And if we take, for instance, the faiths in India, Hinduism, from the outside, much of what we do in Buddhism looks very, very similar. We sit down, we meditate, we have concentration meditations, or seen from the outside. we sit in temples, we do prayers, we pray, we imagine. It's the same as what happens all over the world. So why do we do? What do we do? What is it that distinguishes it from what's done in other faiths? These sort of things we should know. We should know and be able to explain it simply and clearly to others. So Rinpoche is giving us an example, followed by a question. And so imagine that we've got a friend. Our friend is Muslim. We're Buddhist. And so, of course, the Muslim thinks that Allah is great. We think Buddha's great. And we're not going to say Allah's no good, and they're not going to say Buddha's no good. So we both think our own one is great, and we're friends. So then we say, yeah, we think both great, both the same, both the best. But then, if because we've agreed on that, then one day we're both doing Buddhist practice, and then the next day we're both doing Muslim practice, what do you think is going to come out of that? What do you think of that?
Teni madana yung rosa jinsen mahina. Teni madana yung nga nombare cho siropa mate pare nga delime lana Teni pena ji jaga ro ji ngachi jaga yi ko jaga yi si teni da wo chwadong ko sono ma do ti uni kecha se na mundu.
So then it's like nationalism. There's no point being attached and clinging to one's own faith in a way that we put other people's faith down. So we wouldn't be saying, I'm a Buddhist, my way works, your way's lousy, it's no good, and my one's better than yours, and then this just makes aggression a misunderstanding. You can't do that. You can't say that sort of thing, and shouldn't think that sort of thing. I'm losing the plot here.
I just said I did something on what Rinpoche was talking about. When he was talking about Muslim and Buddhist, when I was working in Bradford, I worked with mostly Muslim families, and also worked with some Muslim people in my workplace. And I went to the mosque with some of my friends, and later on in the workplace, we held a group that was doing some relaxation that's based on some of the Buddhist, on some of the meditation things that E.D. Irwin had talked about. And I found that very relaxing. And I actually enjoyed sharing some of the, hearing about some of the Buddhist things, and I enjoyed going to the mosque.
Marhanga ngama inchike tronche chikinangla then the sambulinge chuluk so jeka yare chigi mapengendo then pen kachewa kashi then nampake chu kashi nanan chekendo
ya ta kare ta mare Gimari, Drukasali, Trajona, Lajona, Nidi. Where Nombono Meji Gila, Yikinola Yopa. Nombono Meji Gida, Casinola Yopa, Yona Dindu. Tingatina Yomari Tendi, Coron, Caredin and Nomba Kyundo, Congo Masina, or Chipuno and Dua, Nombono Meji Tenda Mikimato, the passing around Yomari Tendi. That's equal. Moro songs, Moro driven like here, the Dimatata,
Yeah, I think Rinpoche is realizing this could get very complicated. And he's saying that this could take us into areas that would take a lot of time. But so then if we come back, the main point is we should know what we're doing and why we're doing it. And he's saying for sure there are some things we can share with each other. There are some common values which are shared. There are some ways we can help each other. But let's just leave it at that.
Tendi indula ta jinsen nepachi goni inana chodonrawu chodio bare. Tendi jinsen do jiba o ta gyamba madro ngar tadro tendi chi yodu ina. Tendi jinsen do jiba yodu ina tendi dena. Tendi jinsen do jiba jire tendi inana
So our attitude to what we're doing should be based on intelligence. We're not just Buddhist and attached to Buddhism like people are attached to their countries for no other reason than that they are. They're English, so we're Buddhists, and so we're attached to it. Because of that, we should, if we understand the value of what we're doing, the purpose of what we're doing, then we can truly value it.
Te indula tangaroso donano nyonlen shena da gare shena yo jinse ya boji kini nyonlen shena ni nyonlen tala ni ya boji chodindu ni jinse ya boji ma hina nyonlen gare shede ina yo jimala senla jeba tiendu.
And if we now turn that to our own practice as Buddhists, if we know why we're doing what we're doing, then that will be excellent. and it will lead to good practice. But if we're just doing the practice and we don't know why we're doing it, we don't know what it's there to bring about, then even though we might do a lot of the practice, at one point we can have doubts, our mind can change because we've not understood why we were doing it. Now, if we come to the text and what it says about shamatha, then this is the main thing. Don't think about or analyze the past. Don't anticipate the future, mulling over ideas of doing this and that. As for the present, just leave the mind wherever it happens to be, just however it is, naturally at ease, fresh and unspoiled. First of these is not to revive the past, not to dwell on the past. And this simply means not remembering things we've done before, remembering them, thinking about them, analyzing them. The second one is not to anticipate the future, and this means not thinking about anything to do in the future, not developing, dwelling on those thoughts. And it doesn't matter whether it's good things or bad things. If one's thinking about doing something very virtuous, even if one's thinking about doing more meditation, that is what's called the enemy of shamatha. If one's thinking of doing bad things in the future, that's also the enemy of shamatha. Any dwelling on thoughts, development of thoughts about the future is the enemy of shamatha. Then this brings us to the advice about the present, and it says, as for the present mind, then we are not adopting or rejecting. We're not trying to nurture something. We're not trying to suppress something. And we're just leaving it as it is. This is much more difficult. It's fairly easy to understand not developing memories. It's fairly easy to understand not daydreaming, fantasizing about the future. But this way of relating to the present is not so easy.
Tate garishi gogavarelana topa gari hyana topa mabomba bena dujo da woji tendi na yo dujo da mabomba rumba la didira gari yo na rungi de yoje la kore te ina yo zombo ina da dupo ten yo na da gari ina gon ten yo na di jamba de ngola no tani sen ni ba xie di ngola du jenara di ngola gomje ta tindi ji la re de me ta ji gong jama ji ba pa dong nian da wo dong ta tindi xie chu xi chu zhe ge na tani ma ju ba do tani rong ba re le ma re ma ju ba ji na sen ju wa na be na nga du jiao da wo ji na be na xie dong da wo ji xie hua ji tani xie dong dong nga xie ni re sa men du ya xie dong xie men nian men du ya da xie dong me ba ni jian da wo ji da pi后面的东年da wo ji pi xie ge na tani ma ju ba qiao ma song ju song ha tani yin di la na sen ma ju ba ji na da rong ba xie ji de ga re yo na de ngo la yo ji de的面呢，变得脑都机下红花椒，下红的了，哦，但脑都下的按第三门的啊，这样样呢，等rom把这马上啊，研把机这门的这样呢，rom把的呢，或者干什么呢？得了过了，对，门的把敲过的，等于了呢，脑都干的下中呢，今天就呢，的下阶级的，他西就这我呢，等于你把的了呢。
Whatever thought or mental activity occurs in the present moment becomes the basis for shamatha. So if it's a bad thought, an angry thought, a negative thought, something we don't like, we're uncomfortable with, doesn't matter. One just leaves it as it is. There's no question of thinking, for instance, if it's an aggressive, angry thought, this is no good, or I need compassionate mind, compassionate thoughts, or if one's thinking, a thought, and I'm supposed to be calm mind, and one's trying to artificially make some non-thought state, some notion of voidness or emptiness beyond thought. All of that is contrivance, and what we're aiming for is non-contrivance. Nothing artificial, nothing manufactured. And when we look closely, sometimes ideas of emptiness, voidness, no thought are just things we've tried to manufacture. So the word that's used in Tibetan is called rambap. Rambap means naturally settled. Naturally settled means not settled in some peaceful artificial island. It means whatever comes up in the mind becomes the basis, the focus in that very moment of the presence for one's concentration, for one's awareness to settle upon. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, doesn't matter. Whatever comes up, then the mind settles naturally on that as its focus of this instant.
Di rumba yao se je de yao da tang je ge yabo de wo yin re be ga chi bo be ti ni ba chi bo yin re de nguni ge rumba de ma ju ba de shuo je mo ngo ya bu ji man chu je ba de nguni ge rumba de yao je de nguni ma ju ba de yao ti ki ba ma re de ta ti chan ra xie ni ta ga ro zo gong je tin di xie di de la na dong bo 다 뒤선지 주바 바제니 다 롱바 야세 다 요다 통제 그 잡고 짜원하고 쳐디오래 더 라리래.
This term, the rambap, naturally settled, is a vitally important term in Mahamudra. It's, remember she said it's the king of terms, it's the king of ideas, because this being with whatever arises is very important. There's another term that comes with it. In Tibetan it's machupa, means uncontrived. So that goes along with it. The fact that it is naturally present, naturally settled, is because there is no contrivance. There's no artificial thing that you're trying to do, undo, engineer. So that's another very important term, machupa or uncontrived. Now actually these two things, the mind being naturally settled, being uncontrived, We won't be able to do 100%, or in the sense of what those terms really truly mean, until we've had the recognition of the Buddha nature, of mind's true nature. But until then, doing our best to settle the mind on whatever happens and to make the least artifice possible is very important.
다 된디도 요 그지 그 진짜로 가리지나 조 미응마다 다 노바 송지비 상동가 따바다 하고 그기 또 그기요 바래 또나 노도 뇨만다 버려도 버려 노도 뇨만다 되나 노도 뇨만다고 요나 상동도 하고 되기요 말이 되는데라 디 노도도 대도지 동보 마 니티지지도 대도지 노도 된지지 초마지 봐 대도지 생각만 니想着我지 타오나 되니 디 생각我的 하고 와래 니면 나도 배 전롱제 오템모템나 생각고롱고롱이다 고지 띠배 깔리카고 그래 되나 생각때 저지마 니 누군도 되니 다더 가리긴도 다들이 세워나 되니 생각 니에서도 hilava chaware de sa o temo te de so pe no to mo sa de tirana sa ga ro ge de karire ke ta gana ta thi hiyo ba mare ko ro ge de hiyo ba mare pe na aro zo la para jina niri jena la ba nza ga karisa yo ro mo kariyo ha ko mendiwa ta kale so ga ndu gona o der ta nza ga nga ro mo ri la sa re de le la bu ji ga ha ko ndiwa dan ro no to mo bo yo de jina sa ga ro ge de ha ko mendi de na dong bo sa de 마대 저 내장자고 지시 되니 다시 생각도 가린다고 준다 저거 뒤랑통다고 되니 생각도 야 보지롱이도 힘도 된다고 그래.
The reason that we're doing this, letting the mind settle with however it is, be with however it is, whatever activity or thought it has in that moment, letting the mind not want to interfere with, engineer that thought, do something with it, is a very important prelude to actually having much more insight into mind itself, into recognizing the nature of mind. And so through practicing in the way that's going to be developed in the coming sessions, then this being with the present actually gives us a calmer, more stable relationship with and awareness of our mental activity. And it's on that basis that then the mind is known better and deeper. And through that, then real understanding of the mind, and then that mind's deepest nature can come about. If not, then the mind's busy. The mind's busy doing something with its thoughts, reacting to them. And so Rinpoche says it's a bit like if you have your hand in front of you and you move your hand all the time, then you can't see the lines on it, the patterns, the designs. Whereas if that stays still, then you can see the lines and start to understand them, look into them much more clearly. So with this way of being calmly with whatever occurs is part of the training for understanding mind itself.
다트 대조지 요다더 깔리 가보라지 대조 요래데 옛나요 다저로서 디미바지 다들인디와 더 야부지 거 들이 손이 가린다고 지렌드 거마디 바카렌드 따디 다다지 기바디도 요 어히다 하더니 미바기 되면 만들 되는 거지도 달라 대소 제니 로로로고 저지 다디 디라 요지 되니 몸이 바기한바노 손이 붙어라 차고데
디미포직
다다디 기바디도 요지들아 디비지 뭐지 마홈빈다 마서 다다지 기바 요지 다미바지라
데 그런서 도수연데
노 대광이고
So this is not the simplest or the easiest of meditations, because you don't just have one focus for your mind. You're being with whatever comes up in the present. But we're going to leave the explanation of the text here this morning, But then, whatever time you have to practice between now and tomorrow, please try doing this, letting your mind be with, when you meditate, just be in the present, as was explained, and see what you think. So now we're going to move to the teachings on the 3 vows, but maybe it's a good time to have 40 seconds pause to change the CD.